Cool, blimey. It is a warm day here in New Zealand, but doesn't matter. We're going to still do a live stream. I'm going to cover a topic on the Dragon of Icespire Peak. Most of this has actually been around preparing for my own game as well, so it's got dual purposes. It's not just for everybody else. I'm using it for myself as well. Alim, how's it going? Gojoro, how's it going? Hi, Joe. Okay, so now you will find the start time for this video down in the description for those of you who want to skip past all of this if you watch the live stream later. But my live streams go unlisted, so if you're not familiar with my live streams, they go unlisted. So the only way to actually rewatch them is to be subscribed, hit the bell button, and have notifications turned on. Otherwise, you can access my live streams through the Patreon page if you're a patron. I do an edited version for all of my live streams if you're worried about, not that sort of issue, but they usually come out a few days later and they don't include the Q&A. So I don't include Q&A in the edited version for those of you who are wondering, okay? Now, if you haven't been part of my live streams before, hi Fred, how's it going? If you haven't been part of my live streams, normally what I do is I present everything first and then I open up for questions and answers. Now the thing is, I'm going to use slides, and it's very, very hot in my studio right now. So rather than trying to run a fan and all you hear is fan noises, I'm going to go through this as quickly as I can before I melt. and then once I've done that, so you'll see my face now, and then at the end, but I'll probably use a lot of slides and still shots for now, just so you don't have to watch me perspiring and melting in front of your eyes. Okay, sound is good. Settle back, grab yourself a drink. I'm going to have to do that. Make sure to grab some food, or just, if you're at work, understand. Keep working and I will do some talking instead. Okay, settle back. Here we go. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Weller and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5e. Today's topic is a Dungeon Master Guide for the Dragon of Icespire Peak. That is from the Dungeons & Dragons Essentials Kit. This is going to be a series of videos. The very first one I'm going to cover not the very first one, I'd say this is the second one, covering the quests, is the Dwarven Excavation quest. So a Dungeon Master Guide. So if you're a player playing through this particular adventure, this is the wrong video for you. Go and check out one of my other videos. I'm sure you'll find it useful and helpful in some way. This video is specifically for your Dungeon Master. That means there are spoilers. So if you don't want to wind up spoiling the video, the adventure for yourself, this video will definitely spoil everything, because I'm going to reveal a lot of different information that you probably shouldn't know about. Okay, so the quest is on page 22 and 23 of the adventure book. There are 3 main objectives or quests. Although it looks like it's a single quest, I feel like there are definitely 3 major objectives. I'm going to go through each objective, breaking them down and discussing them in some detail and some of the issues that I saw with them. The first one is the most obvious, and that is you got to warn the Dwarven prospectors conducting an archaeological dig in an ancient ruins or Dwarven ruins. They got to be warned that there is a dragon roaming the area and that they should clear out and seek shelter or protection in Phandalin or some other location. That's the basic premise. I'm going to say it right now. The basic quest is very easy. It's not hard to do. All they've got to do is show up, talk to the dwarves. They've done their job. Apparently Harbin Wester is going to pay them 50 gold pieces for doing so. This seems really, really silly to me. I don't quite understand why it's that simple. I mean, it's first level, second level, so I can understand. So players can actually achieve this very, very easily without too much effort. All they've got to do is travel from one location to the next. There really isn't much that can take place as they're traveling. Very unlikely. But why is Harbin Wester giving them 50 GP or gold to warn a bunch of greedy dwarves? Where is he getting the bankroll for this? Is he just some sort of philanthropist, somebody who just likes to just give money away and help out? He's a banker. It doesn't make any sense. When I was looking at this, I was thinking, okay, is he connected to the Lord's Alliance? Is there somebody else bankrolling this? And honestly, I don't understand it at all. What I do think what would make more sense is that maybe Sildar Hallwinter is involved because he's part of the Lord's Alliance. He should still be in Phandalin, provided he survived the Lost Mine of Phandelver, or you actually include him in your adventure, which I think you could. He's actually got a bit of grit behind him, whereas Harbinger Wester just stays behind his door and just pushes money underneath it. He doesn't really come out, he doesn't really do very much of anything. So I don't really understand the quest reward for this. So it makes more sense to me that you include somebody else rather than Harbinger Wester as giving out that 50 GP and assigning this particular quest to the players. It makes more sense to me that the Miners Exchange be involved and that Halia Thornton is bankrolling the relic and artifact dig for the dwarves because it costs money to dig up ground, and I would imagine she would have a lot more investment and interest in making sure the dwarves stay alive and are protected in some way, and that they are brought back to Phandalin alive. Now, that's my suggestion. You don't have to do it, rather than Harbinger Wester. What you might also want to do is maybe trim down the 50 GP to 25 gold pieces just for warning the dwarves. But if the players' characters manage to rescue or convince the dwarves to come with them back to Phandalin and they make it back alive, then give them the 50 gold pieces. There's no reason they need to actually engage in any kind of significant battle. There is a penciled as a battle with some orcs near the end of this location. I'm going to talk about that because I think that needs a little bit of adjustment as well, personally. Okay, so that's the first one. Next is quest number 2. This is actually given to the players' characters when they're on site at the Dwarven Excavation. It's given to them by Daisleen Greyshard and Norbis Iron Rune. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Those are their names. The dwarf prospectors offer a second quest, and this is given to individuals who are quite greedy. And that's my opinion. I think that this is really appealing to greed rather than to somebody who has got a good head on their shoulders. They are asked to destroy the temple monsters that are inside the temple because the dwarves can't continue the excavation of the location because they've come across some sort of strange like creatures, that jelly creatures that they were afraid of, which they should certainly be afraid of. The reward for actually taking part in the dwarves quest is 2 sending stones, so that's a big carrot for any player if you ask me. So it'd be hard for most players to turn that down. But the smart move is not to pursue that particular quest because there are some significant issues with the temple location depending on what level the characters are. Because the dwarves don't really want to go. I could put it down to being just greedy or just stupid, but it's got to be one of those. So they're going to certainly be pushing for the players' characters to clear out the temple so that they can actually continue their dig, which means they're not likely to leave the location anytime soon, because who's ever heard of an archaeological dig taking a short amount of time? I've never heard of it, unless of course you use different sort of rationales, and it's a fantasy adventure, so you can do pretty much anything you want, right? The ochre jellies are going to make a quick snack of any dwarf miners, which is why the dwarves have not been going after the ochre jellies or the oozes. Now you don't need to announce them as being ochre jellies or ochre jellies. You can just say that we came across some sort of oozy-like creature and it seemed to be dissolving insects and rats, and we were afraid if we got near it, it might attack us. Maybe it spat something at them, who knows? You decide how that's going to work. I have a big issue with presenting a jelly of this kind because this ooze can down a first level character with a single blow. It really wouldn't take much for one of the oozes to take down a single level 1 character, even one who is built for frontline combat. Now they might not die, but they'll certainly go down and be unconscious. Even a level 2 character, some of the softer ones, such as the Wizard and Bard, and of course your sorcerer as well, would also at level 2 go down by a single blow. And we're talking about an introductory adventure. So I feel like this particular quest is more suitable for characters who are level 2, level 3, preferably level 3 in my view. Or you're going to be really ruthless with new players, which I'm not really keen on doing so myself. And I don't have a problem with being ruthless with experienced players, but I feel like it's a bit rough for a new player if you ask me. So the ochre jellies hunt by stealth, and they cling to walls. They can use spider climb to maneuver around. They surprise creatures. Usually they're going to go after small rodents and insects and things like that because they don't really move very quickly. They can move through a small space, so a rat or a mice hole would be easy for them to actually suck themselves into and then eat whatever rats or mice are behind a stone wall or a wooden wall or something like that. When it comes to an adventuring party, in all likelihood they would not pursue armed adventurers who are moving through, particularly if there's a large number of them. They might pursue a single medium-sized creature, provided they could get the drop on them, pun intended, dropping down from, say, the ceiling or from the side of a wall just as they're walking through a door frame or through a doorway of some kind. But they're not really those sorts of creatures that would get involved in attacking anybody whatsoever in a large group. And the Monster Manual has spelled that out, so it shouldn't be difficult to figure that one out at all. So how do we approach the oozes in this adventure? The ooze in area E5 is the problem. I'm not so concerned about E7 because that particular ooze is moving around in the rubble, so that if it winds up biting up off more than it could chew, it can escape. But also too, rubble would be a good place where you would find things like insects and rodents and other creatures living, spiders, that it would feed off. So it makes a lot of sense that's where it would be. But for Area 5, the temple, that really, it's supposed to be hanging off the ceiling, clinging to the ceiling. I would actually have it feeding in the pillar rubble. There's a pillar that's broken down. You could even put it feeding inside the secret compartment in one of the pillars. Maybe there's a hole big enough for it to have clambered through into the pillar itself from a different location. It's up to you. But I feel like the pillar rubble is the best place for it to be doing its thing. This is where you would normally find insects and other small creatures it would feed on, whereas you're not going to find a whole bunch of things for it to feed on the ceiling. Doesn't make an awful lot of sense to me. Okay, so when it comes to stupid traps, this one concerns me the most, and that's the exploding statue in E11, the Hall of Greed. It is supposed to be really this adventuring or exploring this Dwarven Excavation site or temple is like the worst idea under the sun, because there's really no big payoff. There's no significant payoff for the player's characters other than those 2 sending stones. Everything else is just dynamite as far as I'm concerned. So the amount of damage could easily kill a first level character, and it's not just a first level character, it's quite possible of instantly killing a second level character, not downing them but instantly killing them. It's doing on average, I think it's like 22 points of damage. Holy Toledo. You might want to reduce the amount of damage this particular trap does, or I've heard of people saying, oh, you should find some way to lure them so they dig their way into E11, because you actually have to spend like 40 hours, a whole chunk of time. It makes no sense to go there whatsoever. Don't lure them in. If they decide they want to dig open this area and spend like 40 hours or split it up amongst themselves and take 10 hours, reducing the amount of time because they've got multiple people digging, then so be it. But I feel like this is one location that you don't really want them to go into. It's not such a big issue if they're level 3. If they were level 3, sweet. No problems, go with it. Things should be fine. Okay, now, when it comes to the last objective or quest as far as I'm concerned, the adventure says that basically once the player's characters have done everything they need to do at this location, some orcs show up. Some orcs show up and attack the party because they need a new home, because there's a white dragon that has driven them from their territory. this is really weak. I mean, I didn't like it. When I looked at it, I was thinking, good Lord, all right, so what's the rationale here? There seems to be a failing in logic somewhere along the line. The orcs actually seem suicidal because the instructions for the orcs are, now obviously you could try to have a conversation between the orcs and the players' characters when they show up, but if nobody speaks orcish, and I mean you'd have to act, I mean orcs don't normally speak common. That's the whole point of having different languages, right? So if nobody speaks orcish, there's probably going to be a fight, or something else can happen. But it does stipulate that the orcs fight to the death. Why would they do that? They have tried to get away from this white dragon, so that would probably kill them. Now they seem like they're suicidal because although they want to avoid the white dragon and survive, they are totally willing to fight to the death with a bunch of heavily armored player characters. I think that's ridiculous. I would ignore that and, you know, have your orcs don't have to engage in a battle. And in fact, if you do engage in a battle, I would have them run away. I would not have them fight to the death. It's stupid if you ask me. What I would suggest to you is that what's stopping these orcs? Why wouldn't the orcs just leave? If they come across heavily armored party and a bunch of dwarves, they could easily just move away from that location, do a bit of a stakeout and wait. And once, because it looks like these heavily armored characters are about to leave anyway, because they're leaving as the orcs show up. They wait for the players' characters to leave. If they do decide to leave, they keep an eye on the location, the temple. Once the dwarves are on their own, there's only 2 dwarves. Those orcs will be more than a match for the dwarves. They take out the dwarves, no problem, the temple is theirs. And of course, if the orc jellies are still in there, then they're probably going to wind up with a lot of trouble. But I don't see any reason why they would engage in a battle whatsoever. There's an opportunity for a conversation of some kind, which I think is great. That's awesome. Absolutely. Let's do something like that. But other than that, I don't see any point. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It frustrates me when I see things placed out. I mean, they had 2 pages to put together a whole lot of stuff. It's very tempting when you look at this location to put more monsters in the rooms because there's a lot of empty rooms. But I wouldn't do that. I would certainly put in little trinkets and so forth that the player characters can find as they're exploring, but I wouldn't add monsters because the monsters that are there are already pretty tough and pretty nasty if you ask me. Okay, so that's my big whine with regard to this particular quest. Now, if you found it useful and helpful, excellent. I have a couple of videos on the Dragon of Icespire Peak already, which you're welcome to go and check out. I do believe there is a playlist. It will get bigger. It's quite small at present. I think there's only going to be 2 videos or maybe 3 videos in there. I also did a review. If you're looking for stuff for just general Dungeon Master advice, I have hundreds of videos for that. A lot of videos for players as well. If you want to support the channel so I keep doing content like this, then I have a Patreon page. I have affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon down in the description. I have a merchandise shelf underneath all of my videos. Make sure to share, like and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. I'm not gone. I am just drag. Brain's not working well. Drinking some water and putting my glasses on to see if I might actually need my eyes today. And I'm just pulling out the book and turning to page 22, just in case anybody has any specific questions. If you have feedback and you want to add something, I would like to point out that I have not actually run this adventure yet. I will be running it shortly. But these were the things that stuck out for me. I don't think there'll be anything else that you need to be hugely concerned about. I know a lot of people might be saying, well, what about the dwarves? Have you got like a breakdown of how those characters would work? There's very, very little in the adventure itself. I mean, it's pretty sparse. So really you could do whatever you like with it. You could make as much as you want with, with what they've provided you with and create the rest. or you could just not worry about it. I don't honestly feel like those two player characters, not player characters, those two dwarves, Daslin and Norbus, are going to really be major players. So I don't know that you necessarily need to sink a whole lot of effort and time into it. Okay, so back to my face. Let's have a chat. Let's just see if my eyes are working better without the glasses or with the glasses. See, it's a moot point today. Right, so we've got Gajero, we've got Joe in here, we've got Alchemy Alone. Hi, how's it going? Fred's here. Mr. Plopfest, how's it going? It's freezing in the UK. Yeah, but I'm on the other side of the world. I'm down under. So when you're freezing, I'm cooking, and when I'm freezing, you'll be, well, if you're in the UK, it'll be just mild. Probably won't be that hot. Could be wrong. Hi, Will, how's it going? Thanks for the guide. You are welcome. Jackie, how's it going? Hey, Fred, I'm going to take your advice and grab some tea. Yes, that's the way. Get some tea. Joe, I modified this one. Yes. Now, what did you do, Joe? Let us know so we can steal from you. Prepared to cook and survive. Hey, Fred. Hi, all. Thanks for your vids, mate. Appreciate them. You're welcome. Last week we did high-level characters, or playing high-level characters, and I'm not too sure what I'll be doing next week, but we'll see. I'm playing around with a few ideas. What's that, Joe? I forgot to roll to see where the white dragon is when they arrive at certain locations. Yes. So there's something that could wind up happening, which, gosh, how complicated would things get if you rolled on the chart when they got to that location to see if you wound up with a dragon. I believe, where is it? It's on page, let's turn to it now. Come on, dragon, where are you? The dragon shows up at certain points, and there's a chart for it. Here we go. Yeah, right, it's on page 11. So basically on page 11, certain locations, and you can roll for this. And so it's possible that the dragon could show up while they're at the Dwarven Excavation site. I feel like that would be like horrible. But it's supposed to be a possibility in this adventure. The whole point is, and I guess you've got to educate your players with regard to the white dragon, is do not engage the white dragon. If you see a dragon, hide. If you hide, you should be fine. If you don't hide, somebody is going to get it made a meal of, because all it's got to do is fly down, pick one of them up, fly off. If they start attacking it, it can attack them, or drop them. It will probably kill them, and then pick up the dead body and fly off and eat them. So, yeah. Avoid the young white dragon at all costs. Hi, Redwater, how's it going? Would the orcs attack earlier if one of the characters is an elf? I don't know that necessarily needs to be a factor. You know, I know that a lot of people like the idea of playing orcs as kind of stupid. But intelligence 8, you know, an intelligence of 8 is not stupid. And that's not the factor that's really important. It's wisdom. So based on that, is it really necessary to have your orcs do completely stupid things? They made a sensible decision to avoid the white dragon. Why would they not simply avoid the player's characters and not engage with them at all, whether they be an elf or not, and instead wait until they leave and then take the temple? James, hi James, hi. You enjoyed the review? Okay, good. I'm glad you did. I'm glad that was helpful in some way. Do not engage. Yes, absolutely. Do not engage the dragon. It's a trap. Okay, back to 22. Because although I didn't say very much when I was talking about it, I know it's really, really tempting when you see these locations. There is essentially 11 locations on this site, which means you could put like a monster in every location, but don't do that. It's not really supposed to be that sort of adventure. What it's really supposed to be is a social interaction rather than a combat. So if they are unsuccessful in convincing the dwarves to leave, which they probably will, I mean, you've got to decide whether the two prospectors are stupid or not. But I feel like, based on the fact that they will give the player characters another quest rather than just bug out, they are not just greedy dwarves, but I think it's pretty clear that they are also stupid dwarves. Who's going to come and, I mean, they don't even know that there's orcs around. Who's going to come and deal with this location when there's a dragon flying around? They could come back some other time. That would be the smart thing to do, is to just block things off, stake your claim, and then head off, get drunk in the tavern, and when the dragon is no longer around, or you've got a few more people with you, a few more dwarves, or a bit more assistance from the Miners' Exchange in Phandalin, then you go from there. What do you got here, Fred? Show a PC a creature and the players will send the PCs to kill it. Yes, that's right. Exactly. Present a creature and they will attack. But see, this is supposed to be an introductory adventure. So I feel like if you're playing with new players, you have a good chance that you can educate them. Whereas if you're dealing with experienced players, they will probably just go with, well, it should be a balanced encounter. We'll just walk in there and kill it. And with an ooze, that's not a particularly threatening monster for experienced players, because they know if they get into trouble, they can just back off, and there's not an awful lot that that thing can do. But if you play it smart with an ooze, and I've done a tactical video, I did a monster tactics video for this particular monster, the ochre jelly, and it explains how to use them effectively. You're welcome to go and check that out. And if you use it smart, at least one of the characters is going down. So either somebody's got to drag them away from safety or pick them up, or somebody's going to be sacrificed. Alright, drink of water time. Area 11, I really hate that Hall of Greed, that trap. 22 average, 40-10 piercing damage if it gets activated, and chances are it will be. So that's crazy stuff. What do you got here, Joe? Oh, here we go. For starters, have one dwarf outside yelling inside for his buddy to turn it into a rescue mission. Yes, you could try to turn it into a rescue mission. I'm not inclined to encourage my players to go into a location like this. You know, when I was looking at what they were saying in terms of, so at the very top of page 22, it talks about whether it's balanced for what sort of level. So it says it's balanced for characters of first level. What a load of baloney. This thing will take out a character. Like, literally, it will take out one character, knock them down, might not take down two, particularly if there's enough of them and you've got more than one jelly to deal with at a time. So that's quite possible. And that trap is definitely going to kill at least one. So that's ridiculous. Then it continues on here. Let's just take my glasses off so I can actually read it, because long-sighted the eyes. Though even characters of second level will find certain elements of this quest challenging. Yeah, well, of course they will. As I said, first and second level will find it difficult. First level is going to have it the worst. Characters of third level or higher should have an easy time clearing out these ruins. Okay, I wouldn't say easy for third level, but yes, certainly it's manageable. And higher levels shouldn't have too much trouble. But I don't feel like this should be a quest you should present to your players too soon. I wouldn't run the Dwarven Excavation as my first choice in terms of quests that I drop for my player characters. I would be inclined to leave that a little bit later on. Okay, right, let's have a look how. Oh, okay. Joe, what do you got here? Then when they come out, the other dwarf is being held hostage by the orcs. Well, yes, yes, you could do it that way. I feel like that would certainly give the upper hand to the orcs, and make the situation better for the orcs, much worse for the player characters. Because it's a no-win situation. What are you going to do? I know if I had held a dwarf captive, the player characters do anything, the dwarf is dead before they can do much of anything. Whether they cast a spell, I'm ready. The knife or the blade is at their throat. So who's going to be able to get past something like that? Okay. So I feel like at least giving them advantage on initiative makes sense. And if there's multiple orcs, and more than likely there will be, because it states here that the number of orcs is equal to the number of player characters. So if you have four characters, then you've got 4 orcs. The only way this is going to work well is if there are less orcs and there are more player characters, or if there's 1 orc. So yeah, certainly, Joe, these are all good ideas, but I feel like using the orcs as an engagement in terms of a battle and a fight is it's not necessary. Okay, Fred, what do you got here? I tried showing the PCs a certain green dragon. 2 ran away, smart, good on them. And the 3rd decided to get up close and personal. Alright, so they committed suicide. Well, you know, that was their choice. And of course they were left alone while 2 ran away, and they stayed to fight it out. The problem is that a lot of player characters, or should I say players, people playing the game, yeah, Joe, you know how, I mean, I've talked about what I'm like, and you know I am ruthless, but I don't get ruthless with new players. And this is supposed to be an adventure that will be run with new players. If I was running this with my home group who are experienced, then I wouldn't have too many qualms about doing these sorts of things. But I also am not married to the idea that when a player's character dies, they must make a new character, as you know. I don't give a toss. If they want to keep playing the same character and the character died, we will find a way. But I know if you are very much married to that idea, that means that pretty much half your group is going to get toasted in this quest. But yes, you know, I think players forget that they don't have to go and hunt down and kill and destroy a dragon straight away. They can take their time. And I would, if it was me and I'm dealing with new players, or even experienced players and they were doing silly things, I would say, you don't have to go after the big bad monster straight away. You can take your time, and if they decide not to do that, then so be it. Now, if you have any questions outside of the topic for today, let me know, and I will do my best to answer those questions. You will have already noticed that there's literally no sort of treasure or loot to be picked up as such, which is why I said I would suggest dropping in a few sort of trinkets, or when I say artifact or relic, I didn't really mean something that's a magical weapon or magical item or anything like that. What I was thinking about was more mundane items. They still should be sitting between level 1 and level 3 when they're running through this adventure, right? So this is a good time to start dropping things like mundane armor. That might be an improvement on what they already have, or a mundane weapon so they don't have to go and buy it. Anything that sort of would make sense. You're dealing with a dwarven location, so picking up things like an axe or a pick or a hammer all makes a lot of sense. They might be just tools, they might be a weapon that was used in the past by whoever was in the temple, the priests that were in the temple. It has a backstory, this temple, as well, and I would suggest to you that as they're exploring, that you try to sort of maybe describe some pictures that illustrate the history of the temple in some way, because it doesn't really do any of that. You've got a whole lot of backstory for the location, but there's nothing really within the adventure that allows you to reveal that information. The only thing you can hope for is your players decide, I'm going to have my character see what they remember from history, and maybe get them to make a history check. And that's the only way you're going to get any of that information to them. Otherwise, it's great for you as the dungeon master, but it doesn't do anything else. Okay, what do you got there, Joe? Either way, you are right. The quest is lacking. Yes. Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, to be fair, I don't think that the changes that need to be made are major. They're just little tweaks to make things work. Okay, as long as you look at it and you realise that it's actually was essentially set up to be a social interaction with a combat with the orcs at the end, great. But as I said, I wouldn't make it a combat quest whatsoever. They don't need to do that. You can still assign and award XP just as if they had dealt with those creatures. You know, even if they managed to talk their way through the dwarves, I would still assign them. I mean, it's basically using a milestone system. So you complete 2 quests, you level up. So you don't really have to worry about tracking XP anyway. So it's absolutely unnecessary for them to go and kill stuff to try to get XP, unless you are insisting on tracking XP generated from killing monsters, or you've decided to award a certain amount of XP for completing a particular quest. It's really up to you, I guess. Okay, alright, I am cooking in here, so unless there's any other questions, I'm going to take off and have a rest. That's not true. I've got a whole lot of things to do. And it's an hour and a half from now. There should be Critical Role should be rolling through. So wherever you are in the world, have a good night, good day, good morning, good early morning if that's what you are dealing with. Look after your family and your friends and yourself. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.